Now for this hour, we start with Thailand and Cambodia. Earlier this morning, the Thai army has reported that fresh round of clashes has taken place along the disputed border it shares with Cambodia. According to a former statement made initially by the Thai military, one Thai soldier was killed and 7 others were wounded. The Thai army spokesperson has now formally spoken on the matter, saying that their intelligence has come to know about Cambodia significantly increasing its troops and firearms in the border near regions. Moreover, Cambodia has also reportedly gained the tendency to use long-range weapons in the inner areas of Thailand, which may be a threat to civilian infrastructure in those areas. Let's listen into what more the army spokesperson has shared.
ในช่วงเช้ามืดที่ผ่านมานะครับมีการยิงและเกิดการปะทะในหลายพื้นที่นะหลายจุดจนกระทั่งรุ่งเช้านะครับและเริ่มมีการปะทะนะครับหนักขึ้นตั้งแต่เวลาประมาณช่วง 5 นาฬิกาของเมื่อเช้ามืดเป็นต้นมานะครับคือทางฝ่ายกัมพูชาเองมีทั้งการใช้ปืนเล็กนะครับปืนใหญ่อาวุธยิงสนับสนุนต่างๆเนี่ยเข้ามาจนเป็นเหตุให้กำลังพลเราได้รับบาดเจ็บและเสียชีวิตนะครับในพื้นที่ช่องบกนะครับและยังพบหลักฐานว่าทางฝ่ายกัมพูชาเองเนี่ยได้เปิดพื้นที่การปะทะเพิ่มเติมอีกในหลายพื้นที่ด้วยกันในช่วงเช้ามืด
The Thai Army spokesperson has also added that the airstrikes by Thai Air Force were only retaliatory in nature and strictly targeted Cambodian weaponry bases to prevent further escalation. Meanwhile, the Cambodian Defense Ministry has also briefed its side of the story on this morning's clashes. Let's in fact listen into the details shared by the Cambodian military spokesperson.
ថ្ងៃទី8ខែធ្នូឆ្នាំ2025នេះយោធាថៃបានបន្តបើកការបាញ់ប្រហារសារជាថ្មីមកលើកងកម្លាំងកម្ពុជានៅគ្រប់ទិសនៅក្នុងយុទ្ធភូមិភាគទី4ចាប់ពីវេលាប្រមាណម៉ោង 5:04 នាទីព្រឹកនៅវេលាម៉ោង 8:10 នាទីយោធាថៃបានបាញ់ផ្សែងពុលចូលតំបន់ភ្នំខ្មោចយ៉ាងច្រើន 11 នៅវេលាម៉ោង 8:14 នាទីយោធាថៃបានបាញ់ផ្សែងពុលបន្ថែមនៅក្នុងតំបន់ប្រាសាទព្រះវិហារនៅវេលាម៉ោង 9:05 នាទីយោធាថៃបានវាយប្រហារមកលើកម្លាំងកម្ពុជាដោយប្រើប្រាស់ប្រភេទយន្តហោះចម្បាំង F-16 បន្ថែមទៀតនៅក្នុងភូមិសាស្ត្រស្រុកស្រអែមខេត្តព្រះវិហារ
Additionally, the Cambodian spokesperson has said that the latest attacks by the Thai army has caused injuries to some of its civilians and damage to property. The Cambodian Defense Ministry has condemned these attacks and accused Thailand of breaching the ceasefire agreement, which was signed by both nations, in presence of Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim and US President Donald Trump back in October. Now for this discussion, we welcome Dr. and Professor Asta Chadha. She's an Associate Professor of International Relations, joins us live from Ritsumeikan University, Kyoto, Japan. Thank you very much, Dr. Chadha, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, again, looking at this, the ceasefire that we were hopeful of is very fragile indeed, and it seems like it has not been lasting. How does historical border disputes in this region, how do you think this is shaping the current political incentives for both governments amid rising casualties and competing narratives of provocation?
Thank you, Asama, for having me to discuss this topic. Well, I mean, we know that, what Thailand and Cambodia have inherited is the same issue of colonial borders that a lot of other countries in the region are, pretty much suffering from. And the fact that their borders were not clearly demarcated, the fact that it has remained an open conflict for quite some time, since the decolonization process, always pointed to the fact that there could be a claim or there could be a counterclaim and a conflict at some point. However, the two countries had managed to maintain more or less peace across the borders. But we are seeing that, back in October when they had signed a broader peace deal, specifically for after the 5-day conflict, the hope was that there would be no longer any such military conflict at least. They can have their disagreements on where the borders lie or what temples and what territories lie specify on what part of the border, but there would at least not be casualties on either side. But this is very unfortunate that, once again we are seeing counterclaims that are coming coupled together with a military standoff. The fact that Thai claims are that, it's the Cambodian forces that had initiated an airstrike or an artillery and mortar fire, which they were retaliating to. And on the other hand, you see Cambodia claiming quite the same thing, that we were not the ones that initiated it. We are not responding to any provocative action unless today that they did. So, this in a way points to two things. One, that there is a complete breakdown of that ceasefire or of that broader peace deal that was signed back in October after the 5-day conflict in July. And two, it seems that, it is very difficult to establish trust at this point, because if there continue to be claims and counterclaims, to which, again, there is very little, to bring them to the discussion table. If they are willing to continue in this manner, this will continue to endanger the peace and stability in Southeast Asia.
And thank you for sharing that, Dr. Chadha. And now zooming out and including U.S. into our conversation, we remember that U.S. Helped broker this ceasefire, and U.S. has helped broker many ceasefire this year, including Gaza one and DRC and Rwanda one as well. But all of them, including this one, seem to be not holding. Do you think this is ineffective, or do you think there is something lacking in U.S.'s behalf, where it seems like Trump administration is more focused rather on just signing on papers rather than checking what's the reality on the ground?
I mean, absolutely, we cannot overlook the fact that, on one hand, whereas it was a good step, I would say, from the US government to step in and try to broker some sort of peace, not just in this particular conflict, but so many other conflicts. But, in some ways, the US role felt more like a high-profile entry into a conflict to which US is not a party, and to try and broker it without enough discussion with the neighbors of the competing or conflicting parties seems to have been a bad move, specifically in this case. So even though, Malaysian Prime Minister was definitely engaged in, him trying to leverage his trade relations in a way to warn them of freezing, any trade negotiations alongside President Trump. But, we do not see the rest of the ASEAN in the same way coming together, trying to call for, beyond them calling for restraint, that is. So their role has been minimal. They have been observer countries, but none of them have actually participated to the same extent, probably apart from Malaysia, in brokering this peace or in maintaining this, stability, at least in between Thailand and Cambodia. So that definitely points to the fact that this is not just one such conflict which is recurring. The fear is that many other such conflicts could just erupt, and then new ones could erupt as well, because clearly the US brokering or the US engagement has been quite ineffective.
100%. Thank you very much, Dr. Chadha, for sharing that. Please stay with us as we come back to you. And now we stay on this topic. Following these clashes, the Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim has now urged both Thailand and Cambodia to exercise maximum restraint and avoid further conflict. He has also warned that such aggressive escalations fail the purpose of the ceasefire agreement and joint declaration reached between Thailand and Cambodia back in October this year. The Malaysian Prime Minister has also called on both nations to open news channels of communications, and that Malaysia is ready to support any steps required to restore peace between them and avert such violent incidents in the future. Now for this discussion, we welcome back Dr. Asta Chadha. She's an Associate Professor of International Relations from Ritsumeikan University, Kyoto. Thank you very much, Dr. Chadha, for staying with us. If I recall correctly, even in October, we discussed this together, and we both mentioned that we were surprised by the silence by the ASEAN members, and rather, you mentioned perhaps it could be because they are a business or economy-focused alliance rather than peace. Amid earlier clashes this year, this time looking at this, can we be hopeful that ASEAN members will be more involved, as we have seen Malaysia ask for more enforcement of this ceasefire this time?
I mean, that is exactly the hope that the other ASEAN nations step in, but we must also understand the fact that Malaysia, specifically the Prime Minister of Malaysia, Anwar Ibrahim, was seen as a key facilitator, is precisely also because he was host of the ASEAN summit, at that point in Kuala Lumpur. So the fact that he took it upon himself to make sure that, he could facilitate a dialogue. And even currently, I mean, if you look at his statement, he's urging both the sides to again come to the negotiation table to make sure that there are no new clashes, and then asking them for restraint. I mean, in some ways, that is both the strength and also the weakness of ASEAN, as a multilateral platform, because they all work with consensus. There really isn't too much space of any one party being able to dictate the kind of peace or dictate the terms of anything to the others. So the only hope that we have is that apart from Malaysia being the chair, the other nations too need to come in and participate in this. It is their region also. All of them get impacted if there is a fresh clash, or currently the way the situation is tense between Cambodia and Thailand, and it impacts the wider region as well. So to maintain both ASEAN's capability and capacity and effectiveness, so to prove that, and also the fact that ASEAN can work together and overcome their differences, and they don't necessarily need to depend on an outside party such as the United States to come and mediate peace. I mean, it's welcome, but they don't need them. I think for the sake of that, ASEAN nations need to step up, create a more direct mediation channel for all the countries that are part of ASEAN, to signify that the regional bloc's function is not just to try and maintain a stable trade, but also maintain peace among its members.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chadha, for sharing that. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our later discussion.